I died while my wife waited for me to sign the divorce papers. The television above my hospital bed replayed the same clip. Me lifting a championship trophy while the crowd chanted my name. Former NHL captain Ethan Carter remains in critical condition after a late-night crash outside downtown Boston. The reporter's voice sounded far away. Morphine softened the pain in my ribs, but it couldn't touch the pressure in my chest. The door opened. Olivia stepped inside. She wore a cream wool coat, pearl earrings, and the expression she used in board meetings when she wanted everyone to believe nothing could shake her. For one stupid second, hope flared inside me. Maybe she had come because she was scared. Maybe 10 years of loving her had meant something after all. Then she placed a navy folder on the bedside table. "Ethan," she said softly, "we need to talk." My gaze dropped to the folder. The hospital lights reflected off 2 silver words embossed across the front. Divorce agreement. I laughed once, but it came out as a broken breath. "You brought divorce papers to intensive care." Her fingers tightened around the strap of her handbag. "The lawyers said it would be easier if we handled it now." "Easier for who?" She looked toward the window instead of at me. "Our marriage has been over for a long time," she said. "You know that. I knew you were distant. I knew you stopped coming to games. I knew you spent more nights at the office than at home." I swallowed against the ache in my throat. "I didn't know you were waiting for me to nearly die before saying it out loud." Her eyes finally met mine. For a moment, guilt cracked her composure. Then another voice came from the doorway. "Maybe honesty is exactly what he needs." Marcus Reed entered as if he owned the room. He wore a dark suit with no tie, rain still shining on his shoulders. My business rival, Olivia's newest partner. He closed the door behind him. "Why is he here?" I asked. Olivia's face went pale. "Marcus, this isn't the time." It became the time the moment he survived. Marcus walked to the foot of my bed. His smile was almost gentle. "You always were hard to finish, Carter." The heart monitor beside me quickened. "What does that mean?" He glanced at Olivia, then leaned closer. "Your crash wasn't an accident." The room seemed to tilt. "What? Someone cut your brake line. Clean job, too." The police probably would have called it mechanical failure if you hadn't hit that divider instead of going over the bridge. My eyes moved to Olivia. She didn't deny it. She didn't ask Marcus what he was talking about. She simply stood there, silent, with tears gathering in her eyes. That silence was worse than a confession. "Olivia," I whispered, "did you know?" "Ethan, did you know?" Marcus answered for her. She knew enough. Rage surged through me so fast the monitor screamed. Pain tore through my chest. Nurses rushed in. One shouted for a doctor. Another pushed Marcus toward the door. Olivia grabbed my hand. "Ethan, listen to me. I never wanted this." I stared at the woman I had chosen over contracts, teams, surgeries, and every warning from people who loved me. "You never wanted me either," I said. Her face crumpled. The room blurred. Doctors surrounded the bed. Someone pressed paddles against my chest. Voices collided above me. "He's crashing. Clear." My body jerked. For one final second, I saw Olivia through the crowd of white coats. She was crying now, truly crying. Too late. My last thought was not of revenge. It was simpler than that. If I ever got another chance, I would stop begging people to choose me. I would choose myself first. Then everything went black. I woke to the sound of my phone vibrating against wood. Not a hospital monitor. Not a ventilator. A phone. I opened my eyes. A faded university hockey poster covered the wall in front of me. My old desk sat beneath it, buried under textbooks, protein bars, and a stack of unopened mail. Morning sunlight pushed through cheap plastic blinds. I sat up too quickly. No broken ribs. No scars. My hands were younger, stronger, unmarked. The phone vibrated again. The date on the screen stopped my breathing. August 18th. 8 years earlier. The day before I skipped the most important scouting event of my college career to help Olivia prepare for her first investor presentation. The day I began trading my future for hers. Her name flashed across the screen. Olivia calling. I had answered on the first ring. She had said, "I need you." I had abandoned practice and spent the night fixing her presentation. while scouts watched other players. I stood backstage holding her coffee and calling it love. That decision had cost me a professional development offer. Years later, cost me far more. The phone kept ringing. I stared at her name until it stopped. A message appeared immediately. Where are you? Practice starts in an hour. Meet me at the cafe first. I need help. In my previous life, I would have apologized before asking what was wrong. This time, I typed 4 words. Can't make it. The typing bubble appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. What do you mean? I stood, opened the closet, and pulled out my hockey bag. I have practice. Her reply came at once. Ethan, this is important. I looked at the old photograph taped beside my mirror. My mother stood next to me at 13, one arm around my shoulders, my first pair of real skates hanging from my hand. I had spent my first life proving everyone else mattered more. Not again. I silenced the phone, slung the bag over my shoulder, and left the dorm. At the rink, Coach Harrison looked up from his clipboard. Carter, you're early. I want extra ice time. He studied me. Olivia, cancel on you. No. Then what's the occasion? I tightened my grip on the bag. I've wasted enough time. Coach Harrison's expression changed. He opened the gate. Then get on the ice. As my skates touched the frozen surface, something inside me settled. The future had already taken everything from me once. This time, it would have to fight. The ice nearly broke me. My mind remembered what my body had forgotten. The sharp cut of a turn, the burn in my thighs, the cold air scraping my lungs. I was 21 again, healthy and fast, but not yet disciplined. Again, Coach Harrison shouted. I drove down the right side, crossed the blue line, pulled the puck between my skates, and fired. The shot hit the post. Coach slapped his stick against the boards. You're aiming where the goalie is. Aim where he has to move. I know. Then stop playing like you're trying to impress someone. The words landed harder than they should have. I reset at center ice. This time I watched the imaginary goalie's shoulders, shifted left, and snapped the puck high to the opposite corner. The net cracked. Coach gave one short nod. Better. By practice's end, my jersey clung to my back and my legs shook in the locker room. Jake Morgan, our starting defenseman and my closest friend, tossed me a towel. Who are you? And what did you do with Carter? I wiped sweat from my face. Very funny. You missed 3 summer sessions for Olivia last month. Today you're here before the coaches. He leaned against the locker beside mine. Did you two finally fight? No. Break up? No. Then I'm out of theories. I looked at the phone vibrating on the bench. 11 missed calls. 6 messages. Olivia had moved from irritated to confused, then angry. You promised you would help me. My meeting is tomorrow. Why are you doing this? The last message was only 2 words. Call me. Jake followed my gaze. You should probably answer. In my experience, probably ruins lives. He laughed, but I didn't. A shadow crossed the locker room doorway. Marcus Reed stood there in a charcoal polo and expensive watch, looking completely out of place among taped sticks and damp equipment. At 24, he was already running his father's sports management company. In my first life, he had called himself my friend. Ethan, he said, Olivia's been trying to reach you. I noticed. She's waiting at Bellini's. I have film review. Marcus smiled as if I were a difficult child. This presentation could decide whether her company survives. Surely hockey can spare you for one afternoon. Coach Harrison appeared behind him. Hockey doesn't spare anyone. Mr. Reed. Marcus's smile thinned. I stood and pulled on a clean shirt. Tell Olivia I'm unavailable. You should tell her yourself. I just did. Something cold flashed in Marcus's eyes. Then it was gone. Careful, Carter, he said quietly. People stop needing you when you disappoint them often enough. I met his stare. That sounds more like freedom than a threat. He left without another word. Jake waited until the door shut. I hate that guy. You have excellent instincts. Film review ran long. Afterward, rain blurred the campus lights. I headed toward the student center and nearly collided with a woman carrying a violin case, 3 folders, and a paper cup balanced on top. The cup tipped. I caught it before it fell. She stared at my hand around the cup. then at me. Nice reflexes. I've been told they're useful. Her dark hair was pinned loosely at her neck. She wore an oversized gray sweater and had a pencil tucked behind one ear. "You're Ethan Carter," she said. I braced myself for the usual question about tickets or autographs. Instead, she pointed at my hockey bag. "You're dripping on my sheet music." I stepped back. "Right. Sorry." That apology sounded painful. "I don't practice them enough." She smiled. "Sophia Bennett." She shifted the violin case and offered her free hand. "Music department. Professional hallway obstruction." I shook it. Her fingers were cold. "Do you always carry your entire life at once?" "Only on days ending in Y." A gust of wind blew through the open entrance, scattering pages across the floor. We both crouched to gather them. One sheet held a handwritten melody. I hummed the first 4 notes before realizing I was doing it. Sophia froze. "You can read music." "My mother played piano." "And you?" "I played badly." "You heard the minor change in the 4th measure." I handed her the page. Maybe I listened better than I played. The teasing left her face. "That's rare," she said softly. Before I could answer, Olivia's voice cut across the lobby. "There you are." She stood near the entrance, soaked, anger and relief fighting across her face. Marcus waited behind her. Olivia walked straight toward me. "I called you all day. I was practicing. You ignored me." "Yes." She stared at me. Sophia quietly gathered the remaining pages. "I should go." Olivia looked at her violin, then at the coffee still in my hand. "Who is she?" "Sophia." "That doesn't answer my question." Sophia lifted an eyebrow. It answered the part involving my name. I almost smiled. Olivia turned back to me. "My meeting is tomorrow. You promised to help. In another life. Maybe." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm done missing my opportunities to rescue yours." Her face lost its color. "I never asked you to give up anything. You never had to. You just expected me to." Marcus stepped forward. "Ethan, don't make a scene." I looked at the nearly empty lobby, then at him. "You brought her here." Olivia touched my arm. The gesture had controlled me for years. This time I stepped away. "I'll send you the notes I already made," I said. "After that, the presentation is yours." "Ethan, please." The word stopped me. In my first life, I had built a home inside that word. I turned back and saw the girl I had loved before ambition hardened her edges. Then Marcus placed a hand at the small of her back. "I have an investor dinner," I said. "I can help Olivia tonight." Of course he could. That had always been the plan. Let me sacrifice. Then let him arrive looking generous. "Good," I said. "Then she won't need me." I walked away. Sophia caught up near the stairwell. "You forgot this." She handed me the coffee. "Thanks. For the record," she said. "Walking away dramatically works better when you remember your drink." I laughed. Really laughed. For the first time since waking up. Behind us, Olivia stood motionless in the lobby. Marcus leaned down and whispered something in her ear. But she wasn't looking at him. She was looking at me. And for the first time in either of my lives, Olivia understood that I might not come back. The first thing Ethan heard when he stepped into North Ridge Arena at 5:30 on Monday morning was the scrape of Coach Harrison's marker across the whiteboard. "You are late," Harrison said without turning around. Ethan checked the clock above the locker room door. "By 30 seconds. Then skate 30 extra laps." Jake Monroe, already halfway into his shoulder pads, leaned toward Ethan and whispered, "He missed you." This is how he shows affection. Harrison capped the marker. 40 for Monroe. Jake groaned. "I need quieter friends." The morning session began with edge drills, then moved into short burst sprints. Ethan's lungs burned before sunrise colored the arena windows. Harrison did not praise him when he beat the first line to the far blue line. He only blew the whistle again. "Faster, Carter. Your body remembers talent. I need to know whether your mind remembers discipline." Ethan lowered his center of gravity and pushed off. His blades bit into the ice. For years, in his previous life, he had trained while checking his phone between drills, waiting for Olivia to need a ride. A favor. Another sacrifice. Now his phone sat locked in his bag. No messages mattered more than the next shift. During the scrimmage, Jake drove the right side and sent a hard pass through traffic. Ethan trapped it with the inside edge of his skate, pulled it to his stick, and cut between two defensemen. One tried to pin him against the boards. Ethan absorbed the hit, kept the puck, and snapped a shot low on the goalie's glove side. The puck struck the post. Again, Harrison shouted. Ethan circled back, jaw tight. On the next rush, he waited half a second longer. The goalie committed. Ethan passed across the crease instead of shooting, and Jake buried it into the open net. Jake slammed into him in celebration. You finally learned I exist. Don't get used to it. Harrison's whistle cut through them. That pass is why scouts are watching, not the highlight reel shot. Remember that. After practice, Ethan found a paper bag and 2 coffee cups waiting on the bench outside the locker room. Olivia stood beside them in a cream coat, her dark hair pinned neatly behind one ear. She had chosen the cinnamon rolls from the bakery he used to drive across town to buy for her. You skipped breakfast, she said. Ethan stopped. How would you know? You always skip breakfast before early practice. You never noticed before. Her smile faltered. Maybe I did. Maybe I just didn't know how to show it. Jake walked out behind Ethan, took one look at Olivia, and quietly retreated through the locker room door. Olivia held out a coffee. No sugar. Extra shot. It was exactly how Ethan drank it. For one dangerous second, habit tugged at him. He remembered all the mornings he had stood outside her apartment with coffee cooling between his hands while she made him wait. He remembered convincing himself that patience was love. Thank you, he said, but I already have plans. At 7 in the morning. At 8, with Sophia. He met her eyes. That isn't your business. Olivia's fingers tightened around the cup. I came here because I'm trying. Trying to do what? Fix this. Fix us. There is no us to fix. The words landed harder than he intended, but he did not take them back. Olivia blinked rapidly. You used to say you'd wait for me as long as it took. I did. Ethan's voice softened. That was the problem. He walked past her. At 8, Sophia was waiting outside Belle Needle, a narrow record shop squeezed between a florist and a laundromat. A knitted green scarf covered half her face, and she held a paper cup in each hand. You look frozen, Ethan said. I was beginning to think hockey players couldn't tell the difference between cold and normal weather. She handed him a cup. Black coffee. 1 sugar. She corrected. You looked miserable enough last time. Ethan laughed. Came out unexpectedly. And Sophia stared at him. What? Nothing. You should do that more often. Inside the shop, old speakers played a soft piano arrangement of a song Ethan recognized immediately. Max Richter, he said. Sophia turned. You know it. Olivia once told me it sounded like funeral music. That's because she wasn't listening. Sophia moved toward a shelf marked modern classical. It's grief trying to become hope. The answer caught him off guard. That's exactly what it sounds like, he said. They spent nearly an hour pulling records from dusty bins. Sophia loved violin concertos, film scores, and old alternative rock. Ethan confessed that he listened to Debussy before games because the music slowed his thoughts. You, Debussy, she teased. The man who nearly knocked a defenseman through the glass yesterday. I contain multitudes. You contain bruises. At the listening station, they shared one pair of headphones. Sophia stood close enough that her shoulder brushed his. Neither moved away. The song began with a fragile violin line. I wrote something like this once. Sophia said. What happened to it? I stopped halfway. She looked down, because finishing it meant letting someone hear it. Ethan studied her profile. Maybe unfinished things are just waiting for the right person. Sophia looked at him then, and the space between them changed. Before either could speak, Ethan's phone vibrated. Coach Harrison. Come to the rink. Now, when Ethan returned, Harrison was waiting in his office with a sealed envelope. The elite development camp moved up its selection schedule. The coach said, they want you at the evaluation game Friday. Ethan stared at the letter. Friday. For days. Scouts from 3 professional organizations. You play well. Doors open. You disappear again. They close. Through the glass wall. Ethan saw Olivia standing near the lobby entrance. She had not left, but she was no longer looking at him. She was watching Marcus Reed shake hands with Ethan's father near the parking lot. Marcus smiled as he passed over a thin black folder. Olivia's face went pale. Across the lobby, Sophia appeared with the record Ethan had forgotten at the shop. She followed his gaze toward the parking lot. "Who is that?" she asked. Ethan's hand tightened around the development camp letter. "Someone who already destroyed my future once." Outside, Marcus glanced toward the rink and saw Ethan watching. His smile widened. Then he tapped the black folder against Ethan's father's chest and said something Ethan could not hear. Whatever it was, his father nodded. By Friday night, North Ridge Arena no longer felt like a college rink. Scouts occupied the glass-fronted box above center ice. Cameras lined the railings. Every seat had disappeared beneath winter coats and school colors. In the locker room, Coach Harrison drew 3 arrows across the whiteboard. "They collapse around the slot," he said. "So stop forcing the middle. Carter, pull their weak side defenseman high. Monroe, attack the space behind him." Jake tightened his gloves. "And if they decide to murder us instead, die responsibly." A few players laughed. Ethan did not. Harrison looked directly at him. "This is not an audition for one spectacular goal. Play the game in front of you." Ethan nodded. His phone vibrated inside his locker. "Father, we need to discuss the family contract before you make a public mistake." A second message appeared. "Marcus, careers are fragile. Remember who protected yours." Ethan switched the phone off. Jake saw his expression. "Old noise." Ethan nodded. "Leave it in here," Jake said. "We need you on the ice." The arena exploded when the team entered. Ethan heard his name, but searched only once. Sophia sat 3 rows above the home bench, wearing the green scarf from the record shop. When their eyes met, she lifted 2 fingers in a small salute. "Breathe," she mouthed. The puck dropped. The first shift was violent. Westlake's captain drove Ethan into the boards. The glass shook beside his helmet. Ethan stayed upright, dug the puck loose, and sent it backward between his skates. Jake collected it in stride. "Move," Ethan shouted. They crossed the neutral zone 2-on-2. Jake cut outside. Ethan dragged the nearest defenseman toward the right circle, then stopped hard. Ice sprayed across his visor. The defender followed him half a step too far. Jake slipped behind. Ethan threaded the puck through a closing lane. Jake redirected it toward the net, but the goalie kicked out his pad and sent the rebound into the corner. "I felt famous for almost a second," Jake said as they changed lines. "Autograph the bench later." Westlake scored first on a screen shot from the blue line. Then they scored again after a turnover behind Northridge's net. Harrison called timeout with 6 minutes left in the second period. "You are chasing the scoreboard," he snapped. "Stop playing afraid of losing." His gaze landed on Ethan. Ethan knew that fear, in his first life, it had controlled every choice. Olivia, his father, and every sacrifice made for people who would never choose him. He leaned toward his teammates. "1 goal," he said. "We don't need 2 right now. We need the next one." On the following shift, Ethan blocked a shot with his thigh, stole the loose puck, and accelerated. The world narrowed to blades, breath, and open ice. A defenseman stepped into his lane. Ethan shifted the puck left, rolled his shoulders right, and cut inside before the man could turn. Another defender closed near the crease. Ethan could have shot. Instead, he waited. The goalie dropped early. Ethan slid the puck across the paint. Jake buried it beneath the crossbar. The arena erupted. Jake grabbed Ethan's jersey. "I forgive every insult since freshman year. Until the next shift." Obviously, North Ridge tied the game early in the third. With 42 seconds remaining, Westlake took a penalty. Harrison sent Ethan over the boards. The puck moved from point to circle, back to the blue line. Westlake's penalty killers tightened into a box. Ethan drifted toward the left faceoff dot, remembering Harrison's warning not to force the middle. Then Sophia's unfinished melody flashed through his mind. Soft at first, then rising where everyone expected it to resolve. Ethan changed the rhythm. He faked the one-timer, pulled the puck around the defender's stick, and drove behind the net. The goalie followed the movement. Jake crashed the crease. Ethan wrapped the puck around the opposite post before the pad returned. The horn sounded. 3-2. His teammates rushed him as the building became thunder. After the handshakes, reporters crowded the tunnel. Olivia waited beyond them in a red dress beneath her winter coat, holding a silver gift box. "You were incredible," she said when he finally reached her. "I knew you would come back." Ethan removed his helmet. "You told me hockey was something I needed to outgrow. I was wrong." She opened the box. Inside lay an expensive new watch. "I thought we could celebrate," she continued. "Just us, like before. There was never a before where you waited after my games." Her face tightened. "Why are you punishing me for not understanding sooner?" "I'm not punishing you, Olivia. I'm living without asking your permission." Behind her, Sophia stood near the exit with 2 paper cups. She started to turn away, but Ethan called her name. Olivia looked between them. "You're choosing her." "I'm choosing where I feel wanted." He left the watch in Olivia's hands. An hour later, Ethan and Sophia sat in the highest row, drinking hot chocolate while the ice was resurfaced below. "Do you know why I stayed?" Sophia asked. "To make sure I survived the reporters. Everyone wants to stand beside someone while the crowd is cheering," she said. "I wanted to see who you were after the applause stopped." Ethan's smile faded into something quieter. "And you look tired." He laughed softly. "Brutal review. You also look free." Their shoulders touched. Neither moved. Later, they crossed to a 24-hour diner. Sophia found an old piano and played the unfinished melody from the record shop. Ethan hummed a second line beneath it. She stopped. "Do that again." He did. Sophia added 3 notes, and the music finally resolved. "There," she whispered. "Now it has somewhere to go. So do I." Their eyes held. For one breath, Ethan thought she might kiss him. Outside the window, Olivia stood beneath the diner's neon sign, rain gathering in her hair. She watched Sophia laugh as Ethan leaned over the piano, and the silver gift box slipped from her hands. Across the parking lot, Marcus sat inside a black sedan. He lowered a camera, dialed a number, and said, "The scouts are interested. Move to the next step." At North Ridge Arena, a side door opened. A man in a maintenance uniform entered the equipment room and replaced one of Ethan's blade holders with an identical piece whose front screw had already been loosened. He wiped the handle clean and turned off the light. The sound came before the pain. A sharp metallic crack snapped through the rink, louder than the scrape of skates and the coach's whistle. Ethan's right blade twisted beneath him. For half a second, he was still moving at full speed. Then the ice vanished from under his feet. "Ethan!" Jake shouted. Ethan slammed shoulder first into the boards. His helmet struck the glass. White light exploded behind his eyes, and the arena folded into silence. Coach Harrison was beside him almost immediately. "Don't move, Carter. Look at me." "How many fingers?" Ethan tried to answer, but his breath came out broken. "That doesn't happen by accident," Jake said. Coach Harrison's expression hardened. "Not now. Call the medic." The last thing Ethan saw before his eyes closed was the dark shape of someone standing behind the glass on the second floor, watching. Sophia was halfway through a rehearsal when the commotion reached the music wing. She set down her violin so quickly the bow rolled off the chair. "What happened?" her instructor asked. But Sophia was already running. By the time she reached the rink, paramedics had Ethan on a backboard near the bench. She pushed through 2 players and dropped to her knees beside him. "Ethan." His eyelids fluttered. "Look at me," she said, gripping his hand. "Please, just look at me." A medic tried to move her aside. "Ma'am, we need space." "I'm not in the way." Her voice cracked. "I'm keeping him awake." Ethan's fingers moved weakly around hers. "Sophia, I'm here." "You look terrified." A breath that was almost a laugh escaped her. Tears filled her eyes anyway. "You hit a wall at full speed." "I think I'm allowed." "Don't cry. Then stop doing reckless things." "Wasn't exactly planned." The medic checked his pupils. "Possible concussion. We need to transport him." As they lifted him, Ethan did not release Sophia's hand until the stretcher rolled through the doors. At the hospital, Sophia stayed. Jake arrived first. "How is he?" "Concussion. Bruised shoulder. No fracture." Sophia looked toward the closed door. "The doctor says he was lucky." Jake lowered his voice. His skate was tampered with. She went still. You're sure? I maintain my own gear. Those screws were loosened deliberately. Before Sophia could answer, heels clicked rapidly down the corridor. Olivia appeared carrying flowers and a gift bag, panic tightening her face. Where is he? Sophia stood. He's resting. Olivia looked at her as if she had found someone sitting in a seat that belonged to her. I heard there was an accident. Why didn't anyone call me? Jake folded his arms. Why would they? Olivia ignored him. I need to see Ethan. A nurse stepped between them. Only one visitor at a time. I'm practically family. From inside the room came Ethan's rough voice. Sophia. Everyone in the hallway heard it. Sophia opened the door halfway. I'm here. Did you eat anything? She blinked. You just woke up from a concussion. And you're asking me that. You forget when you're worried. A faint smile crossed her face. I'll eat. Promise. Promise. The door closed again. Olivia stood motionless. Flowers pressed against her chest. He asked for her. She whispered. Jake's expression was not cruel, but it was honest. Maybe you should start listening when he tells you what he wants. Olivia left the flowers on an empty chair and walked away without another word. Marcus found her in the parking garage. He leaned against his car as though he had been waiting by coincidence. You look upset, he said. Olivia glared at him. Ethan could have been killed. Hockey is dangerous. His equipment failed. Marcus shrugged. Maybe he's just unlucky. She studied him. Why are you here? To make sure you're okay. I didn't call you. Inside the hospital. Ethan woke again after sunset. Sophia was curled in the chair beside his bed, asleep with her cheek against her folded arms. Her hair had fallen across her face. One hand still rested near his, as if even unconscious she had refused to go far. Ethan watched her for a long moment. In his first life, he had confused being needed with being loved. Sophia was different. She did not ask him to abandon himself. She simply stayed beside the broken parts. He reached over carefully and brushed a strand of hair from her face. Her eyes opened. You scared me, she said. I'm sorry. No, you're not. Athletes always say that after doing something terrifying. Technically, the skate did it. Sophia's expression changed. Jake told me. Ethan looked toward the dark window. This wasn't random. You know who did it? Not yet. That means you're going to investigate. Yes. And you're going to pretend you're fine while doing it. He glanced at her. Probably. She moved closer. Then I'll make this simple. You don't get to shut me out. The air between them tightened. Sophia, I'm not asking for a promise about forever. Her voice softened. I'm asking you to let someone stand beside you now. Ethan's hand closed around hers. Okay, he said. Felt bigger than a vow. An hour later, Jake returned with a laptop and a small black flash drive. I copied the security footage before the rink system mysteriously wiped itself, he said. Ethan sat up despite Sophia's immediate protest. Play it. The video showed the equipment corridor at 11:43 the previous night. Empty, grainy, silent. Then a man in a dark coat entered the frame. Sophia leaned closer. Is that Marcus? Ethan said. The figure opened the equipment room door and disappeared inside. 30 seconds later, the screen fractured into blocks of static. A red warning flashed. File corrupted. Jake swore under his breath. But Ethan had already seen enough. In his first life, Marcus had waited until Ethan was weak before destroying him. This time, he had started early. Ethan looked at Sophia, then at Jake. Don't tell anyone we have this. Jake nodded. What are you going to do? Ethan watched the frozen image of Marcus reaching for the equipment room door. I'm going to let him believe he succeeded. Outside the hospital, Marcus sat in his car and answered a call. The injury wasn't permanent. A nervous voice said. Marcus's grip tightened around the phone. Then we moved to the next plan. What next plan? Marcus looked up at Ethan's lit hospital window. We don't break his body, he said quietly. We destroy his name. The man behind everything. The first thing Jake asked when he closed my apartment door was the question everyone else had been thinking. Why haven't you turned Marcus in? He stood in the middle of my living room, arms crossed, staring at the flash drive resting on my coffee table. It shows him entering the equipment room, he said. Maybe not the whole sabotage, but enough to raise questions. I picked up the tiny metal drive and rolled it between my fingers. It isn't enough. Jake frowned. What? If I expose him now, he'll disappear. He'll lawyer up. He'll destroy the rest of the evidence. I looked out the apartment window where fresh snow drifted over the quiet streets. I've already lived through losing everything once. This time, I turned back toward him. I'm not interested in scaring him. A slow smile appeared on my face. I'm interested in ending him. Jake was silent for several seconds. Finally, he let out a low whistle. You've changed. No. I slipped the flash drive into a drawer and locked it. I finally learned. Dr. Ellis insisted I stay off the ice for at least a week. Coach Harrison hated the decision. Coach Harrison hated the decision. I hated it even more. Sophia seemed to enjoy reminding me. No skating. I know. No lifting. I know. No sneaking into the rink. I wasn't going to. She raised an eyebrow. You literally checked the practice schedule while saying that. I sighed dramatically. You wound me. She laughed. A sound that somehow made the apartment feel warmer. Over the next few days, she practically moved into my recovery routine. She changed the bandages on my shoulder, cooked meals, and spent every evening playing violin on my balcony while we finished the melody we had begun together. Our melody, she asked. I nodded. Our melody. She smiled. Then don't stop smiling when you're with me. The next afternoon, Olivia arrived carrying a small wooden box filled with old memories, concert tickets, photographs, and the friendship bracelet I had once tied around her wrist. I kept everything. She whispered. So did I. I answered quietly. But the Ethan those memories belong to doesn't exist anymore. She cried. Can we start over? I gently moved my hand away. I'm grateful for your apology, but gratitude isn't love. She left in silence. Sophia returned from the balcony. You okay? I think, I said, looking toward the closed door. I finally said goodbye. 2 days later, rumors flooded the internet. Anonymous posts accused me of faking my injury, using performance-enhancing drugs, and receiving unfair favoritism. Coach Harrison suggested a press conference. Reporters shouted questions from every direction. I waited until the room became quiet. I've heard every rumor. Another pause. I won't answer rumors. The cameras focused on me. I'll answer them on the ice. Then I walked away. That night, Marcus Reed received an anonymous email. Attached was a single photograph showing him entering the equipment room before my accident. Below it were only 5 words. Your turn is coming. For the first time since this game began, Marcus looked afraid. The air inside the arena was cold enough to sting every breath. Tonight, no one seemed to notice. Thousands of fans filled the stands beneath bright white lights. The giant screen above center ice flashed one message over and over. National Development Championship Final for everyone else. It was the biggest game of the season. For me, it was something far greater. It was the life I had fought to reclaim. Coach Harrison stood in the locker room and looked each player in the eyes. Forget the rumors. Forget the headlines. Forget everything except the next 60 minutes. Then he looked at me. Ethan, you already know how to answer them. I nodded. On the ice. He smiled. Damn right. Jake bumped my shoulder as we walked toward the tunnel. Let's bring this home. When I stepped onto the ice, the roar of the crowd rolled over me like a wave. Across the arena, Marcus Reed sat quietly in the stands. His expression looked calm. Only his tightly clenched jaw betrayed him. Several rows away, Olivia sat alone holding the same wooden box that contained our old concert ticket, photographs, and friendship bracelet. She didn't try to approach me. She only watched. Near the players' tunnel stood Sophia. She smiled gently and lifted the silver violin pendant hanging around her neck. I smiled back. That was all I needed. The puck dropped. The game exploded into motion. The opening period became a blur of speed, checks, and impossible saves. Jake stole the puck and passed it to me. I accelerated. One defender, then another. I slipped between them before firing a wrist shot. The goalie barely caught it with his glove. Coach Harrison shouted from the bench, "Keep attacking." The second period became even more physical. Every shift felt like a battle. With 3 minutes left, the scoreboard still read 3-3. Every scout stood. Every fan held their breath. Jake looked toward me. Your turn. The pass came perfectly. I pushed forward with everything I had. One defender reached for my stick. I spun away. Another tried to force me toward the boards. I lowered my shoulder and drove through the contact. The net appeared. Time seemed to stop. For one brief second, I saw Sophia standing at the end of the tunnel. She simply nodded. I released the shot. The puck flew across the ice and buried itself in the top corner. Goal. The arena erupted. My teammates crashed into me before I even realized we had won. Coach Harrison wrapped me in the biggest hug of my life. You earned this. I laughed. We all did. As the championship trophy was raised, shouting erupted from another section of the arena. League investigators surrounded Marcus Reed. Large screens across the arena suddenly displayed security footage from the equipment room. Marcus, the equipment manager, the sabotaged skates. Every missing piece finally appeared. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Marcus looked at me one last time before investigators led him away. For the first time, there was no arrogance left in his eyes, only fear. Hours later, the arena was nearly empty. Sophia sat alone in the front row, her violin resting across her lap. She softly played the melody we had written together. I carried the championship trophy over and sat beside her. She stopped playing. So, you answered them. I smiled. On the ice. She laughed. From my jacket pocket, I removed a small velvet box. Inside rested a silver ring engraved with 4 simple words. Our melody never ends. She looked at me in complete silence. I spent my first life chasing someone who never chose me. I said quietly, this life, I choose you. Tears filled her eyes. You took long enough. I know. So, she smiled through happy tears. Is this your proposal? It is. She leaned forward and kissed me before whispering the answer. Yes. Always yes. 1 year later, the professional league opened its new season. The announcer's voice echoed through the packed arena. Starting forward, Ethan Carter. The crowd erupted. Across the arena, the opening ceremony orchestra began to play. Leading the violin section stood Sophia Carter. She met my eyes. We smiled at each other. This time, we had both reached our dreams together. Far back in the audience, Olivia quietly applauded. She never walked toward us. She finally understood that love is not about holding on to someone who has already chosen another path. Sometimes, loving someone means letting them go. I once believed being reborn meant getting a second chance with the wrong person. Now I know the truth. Rebirth gave me something far more valuable. The courage to choose the life that was always meant to be mine. The life I chose. The end.